Hello guys, this is Dr. Patrick Price and welcome to the Body Detective Show. Today I have a very good friend and what I call a big brother of mine, Doug Caporrino. And I'm honored to have him here on the show. Doug is a modern day shaman. He's the guy who just basically has this wealth of knowledge about the fitness industry, about nutrition, testing for your metabolic conditions. Doug is a person to go to for any type of thing you have going on. If he don't have an answer, I'm sure he will go find it. So today I'd like to welcome Doug Caporrino to the show, and my big brother. Let's give him a warm welcome, guys. Hello, guys. Dr. Patrick Price here. Welcome to the Body Detective Show. And today I have a guest, which is not just a good friend of mine, but like a big brother to me, Doug Caporrino, and he has been a big person to know in the health and fitness industry. Meaning, this guy knows a little bit about everything. And if you don't ask him, if you don't know the answer, I would be really surprised. And so he's been a mentor to me, helping me understand more about the world and actually the speaking world, how to get out there more and get yourself known. But Doug is here today as a friend to the show, and I wanted you to welcome all, give a big warm welcome to Doug Caporrino. And Doug, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Patrick. A long time coming, and yes, I hope I can live up to that introduction.
Well, you are just that. You're the big brother of me, so I don't really have a big brother in the industry, but you are just that to me, Doug.
Well, thank you. Right back at you, my brother.
Yeah. So anyway, for the show here, tell everybody who Doug Caporrino is. A lot of people do know you, but I'm sure, like anything else, there's a lot of people who don't know who you are, Doug. So let the world know who you are.
Oh boy, Patrick, that's a long one. I don't know if this show is going to be a long enough.
Let's do the condensed Doug version here. So how about that?
Okay, so I've been doing what I do for probably the better part of my life, probably for close to 40 years. Biochemist, functional medicine, nutritionist, and I do very specific diagnostic testing on my clients that most doctors don't do, where we do a lot of intracellular work, blood work, where we extrapolate the cells, grow them in petri dishes, so that we can actually see what the cell membrane is absorbing or not absorbing. So like the old adage says, you are what you eat, I don't necessarily agree with that. I believe you are what you absorb. And that's one of my other areas of expertise and my areas of study for the past 12 years is the microbiome in the gut, and really understanding how now science is finally admitting that the gut is 75% of the immune system, and how the gut-brain connection has made such a drastic impact on health and wellness now in the United States. And we're finally getting some really great diagnostic tools now where I can pinpoint the exact bacteria that the body is depleted of or in balance of, and how to correct that so that, again, many of these different...
Doug, I'm losing your microphone a little bit. Do you mind raising your microphone a little more clear?
Okay, so...
There we go. There we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
So a lot of people, again, are now trying to understand just the similarities between some of their symptoms, everything from autoimmune right on down the line to long COVID symptoms, on how it's actually gut related. So it's pretty spectacular, and it gives me a lot more tools to work with in helping clients as well. So it's really been a game changer for me. I've traveled most of the world speaking, as you know. That, again, died down a few years back when I started getting off of the carousel, so to speak, because everybody thinks it's this big glamorous lifestyle. And as you know, you're being hustled off from the airport to the hotel to speak, and then back out to dinners with the sponsors. And then before you know it, you're back on a plane flying home. So that started to get a bit much. It was fun in the beginning, but now in the great new world of technology, we're able to do things like we're doing right now to be able to get the word out and impact that many more people from around the world. So I guess you could say that's a little synopsis of who I am and what I do. And if you want to add anything to that.
I do want to add, because they also need to know the, now that I've been corrected, not the Rambo, but the Rocky Balboa background. You need to know, they need to know that one.
Well, yeah, I have been involved in some training celebrities in the past as well. That was my former lifetime. So yes, Sylvester Stallone was one, John Travolta was one, LaToya Jackson, I mean, just to name a few. So I've been very, very blessed, and also blessed to be the morning and wellness consultant for many of the morning shows. And I was with the Joan Rivers show for many years as well, too. So again, very blessed in a lot of different areas.
Yeah, no, guys, Doug has been a speaker at many of the big chiropractic events. Like the Parker used to have one of the largest in the world at Vegas. I haven't been to it in a long time, so I don't know how big it is now. But Doug is the one person who pulled off the stunt that I don't know anybody else who could have did it. He had Mariah Carey show up and sing one song and then fly off back off the stage. So like I said, I don't know how you did that, but that surprised a lot of people when you did it.
Well, I think it surprised you and the 5,000 other people I think that were there attending. So,
Uh,
so yeah, I was very blessed, and it was a very, very big favor, and it certainly blew up the newspapers and the news stations the next day.
yeah, it did. So we met in, I think we said 2003, four, somewhere around there, Doug. We first met.
We did. I actually was speaking at a conference up in Canada, and I'll never forget this. And what's funny about this story is I tell this story frequently, so I'm sure your ears are ringing. So I gave a presentation at SWIS, the Society for Weight Training and Injury Specialists. And I remember you and your then significant other sitting in the front row. And she was deaf and lip read my entire talk. And at
Right.
the end of the talk, I can remember the both of you coming up to me and just saying how much you appreciated the talk and the information that I gave. And I remember you just kind of scanning my body as we were standing there. It was kind of freaking me out a little bit because I didn't know anything about you and what you did. But I see you looking at my knees, looking at my hips, looking at my shoulders. And then finally you said, so what's with the injury here and what's with the injury over there? And it was miraculous to me that you were able to pinpoint every single one of the injuries that I had in my body. And then your significant other is looking at me saying that during my whole entire talk, there was a purple hue that was around me. And it was the
Right.
aura that I was giving off. And the way she was saying it just literally brought tears to my eyes. So yeah, that was a very unique meeting that has lasted with me for the better part of my life.
Yeah. Well, Doug, the idea is those kind of abilities, what they call today a medical intuitive is the name they give it. A lot of people don't know it's trainable in people because everyone has the ability, and that's why we have a course to develop doctors, to layperson, to come and actually use your intuitive abilities. Imagine if medical doctors, chiropractors, other health people actually went through a medical intuitive training course as an alternative course. That would help really change a lot of things how they do their work, wouldn't you think?
Well, I definitely agree with that. I know your course is invaluable to a
Mhm.
lot of health professionals out there, and certainly I would encourage anybody that is in the field to certainly take it. And the other thing that I would encourage anybody in the field is to certainly practice the art of listening.
Listening,
God gave us two of these and
right?
one of these for a reason. So, whenever I do I call it an entrance interview for any potential clients that want to come on with me. I speak to them for about an hour and literally about everything in their life, what they did in their life in their young age to the middle age to their old age, because all of those things have an impact on a person's health, which people don't realize. Everything from the environments that people used to work in to the environments that they surrounded themselves with as well. So I always say the physical, chemical, and the emotional stressors that people have been exposed to their entire life all have an impact on your health. So I think if health professionals, doctors, included, did a little bit more listening and understood about people's lifestyle, I
Right.
think being able to diagnose problems, not just symptoms, which unfortunately that's what our world does today, but look for the causes, I think, again, the outcome which would be much greater. I know it is in my practice.
Mhm.
I am amazed at the results that we get just because we address, again, the underlying causes as opposed to the symptoms. I don't care about symptoms. I care
Mhm.
about what created it.
Right. So Doug, you really do a lot of examining on patients, really, like you said, listening a lot. And the term they use today is functional medicine. But what's funny, yesterday I was showing a patient in the office, look up on Wikipedia, look at functional medicine, and they call it quackery. And it says it's unfounded, untested, and you have to laugh because functional medicine, as I know it, as I practice it like you do, is we look at what? Everything. You look at how they sleep, how they eat, and of course the lab test, a regular blood test, as you know, tells you only if you're dying. It doesn't tell you all the little details. So what other ways do you use in functional medicine to test people to find out what's wrong with them?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you
Mhm.
mentioned the standard blood work that most doctors do today. Well, as I
Mhm.
say all the time, that's antiquated. Most of those blood tests have not been updated literally for decades. And
Right.
it's unfortunate because regular doctors are still doing lipid panel tests, which is just coming back with total cholesterol, HDL, LDL, and triglycerides. But again, that's a small picture of what's going on inside of the patient. I do what's called fractionated lipid panels, where we actually take a look at the particle sizes of the bad cholesterol and the good cholesterol, which tells more of a story, because that then tells me whether or not a person is at risk for heart disease. I don't care what your total cholesterol is. Cholesterol, this whole myth about it being the cause for heart disease is just that. It's a myth. It's inflammation that is really the reason behind
Inflammation.
heart disease. Exactly.
Yeah.
So the kind of diagnostic work I do is called intracellular. Intracellular work basically is we extrapolate the cells, we grow them in petri dishes so that I can actually see what the cell membrane is absorbing or not absorbing, which is really imperative to a person's health. I'll give you, for instance, I just had an ER doctor come to me a few months ago. Here's a guy who's been a vegan for 10 years, doing a ton of stuff as far as supplements are concerned, leading what he perceives as a pristine lifestyle. Now, he's thinking he's going to come back with an unbelievable test result. His results came back one of the worst results I've ever seen on anybody that I've ever done.
Wow.
And he said, well, how could that be? I don't understand. I feel okay. Look at the way I'm eating. Look at the things that I've been taking. Look at my lifestyle. I said, very simply, because at some point you took an anti-inflammatory, an Advil, a Tylenol, or you took an antibiotic at some point in your life. Area of your gut bacteria that really is responsible for, again, absorbing all of those nutrients into your body. And until we repair that or replace that good gut flora, you're not going to be able to, again, absorb all those nutrients. So again, just one small case about how just the little things we do day to day can actually affect that. The other thing that I do too, diagnostic wise, is there's another test I do where we take a fecal sample and we take a look at, again, a person's gut health to see exactly what are the different types of microbes and bacteria within a person's gut. And again, how that's affecting the different types of foods that a person is eating, how they could be creating an inflammatory effect in the person's body. So again, I try to take a look at all of the different aspects of a person's life, physical, chemical, and emotional, what's going on. Because a person could be doing everything great from a physical standpoint, working out, meditating, doing all those things on a daily basis. They could be doing everything great from a diet standpoint on a daily basis and think, okay, they've got this under control. But look, if there's a lot of turmoil and stress in their life, guess what? It's going to negate the other two. And you know this because I know you see this day to day in your practice as well. So again, it's trying to have that balance, that homeostasis in a person's life to be able to create that wellness, that undenying health that I think, we are all basically looking for.
Yeah, I think you're right on, Doug, because when people take just one round of antibiotics or a steroid or whatever they're taking, they don't realize the damage that can be done to their gut for a long time. And as you know, the gut, and I'm sure you've known for many, many years, like most of us who really look deeper, is the gut has been the main issue with everything. You fix the gut, you fix the body, basically, right? So
Yeah, totally agree.
So what ways do you use to, if someone comes in and you see like this guy and they got their gut not very happy, what kind of ways can you tell the public listening right now that you fix the gut?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So one of the other things I do is, people will always ask why can some people do all of these bad things, smoke, eat fried foods and everything and live to be, 100, and other people just, do one small thing and all of a sudden die of a heart attack at 37.
Like my
Well,
mother.
right. Well, there you go. Well, my philosophy is, again, we all have our own toxic tipping point. What does that mean? It means, look, we're all exposed to, dozens of different types of toxic chemicals on a daily basis, from personal care products, literally lotions, potions, everything that we do for our body, to literally sitting on a chair and the fire retardants that are actually off-gassing from our bed and chairs and our floors in our homes. So how does that affect a person's health? So when I have a person fill out my intake forms, I have them put down all of their personal care products. And I have a database that I've been using for years where I'm able to input all of those personal care products, and it comes back with a list of all the ingredients and where those ingredients are on a list of hormone disruptors, possible carcinogens, all of the above. So I take a look at every single one of those personal care products that a person's using. And guess what? If their toxic tipping point, if that number comes back super high, I'm like, okay, look, we have a problem here. We need to do some, major detoxing and cleaning up of your system before crisis hits. You know this, I say this all the time. You just don't wake up with heart disease one day, and you just don't wake up with cancer one day. The subtle signs have been there for years. It's a matter of, again, peeling back the layers of the onion and trying to find what those signs are. So this is just one of the many things that I use because again, if somebody's exposed to these types of toxins on a daily basis, and they have been for years, guess what? Crisis is right around the corner. So I
Right.
try to prevent that crisis from happening, and I try to clean up a person's body as much as we possibly could. Everything from mild detox protocols that I create on a personal basis for each individual based upon what I think they have going on. And then I get a total of 3 different protocols, one that they will do once a month, and then we do those for the entire year. So it's almost like, as I can give you an analogy, tuning up your car. Okay, it's like cleaning the air filter, cleaning the oil filter. Well, we're doing the same thing with our bodies as well.
Mm.
And I'll give you a funny story here. I spoke at a medical conference once years ago, and one of the doctors stood up and said, "Look, that's ridiculous. The body has all of the necessary tools it has to be able to cleanse itself. That's what the liver is there for. That's what the kidneys are there for."
Yeah.
I said, "You know, you're great." I said, "I totally agree with you. But also, could you please answer the question as far as how many different toxic chemicals are released into our environment every year? And was our body meant to handle this kind of a bombardment on a daily basis?" And he had no answer for me. You know, and I
Mm.
told him that there's over 10,000 new chemicals released into the environment every single year, and that the bombardment that we get from our food system alone, the herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, that
Mm.
again, we're ingesting on a daily basis, you know, the body was not meant to be able to filtrate half of those things out. In fact, when you take a look at the PCBs, when you take a look at the glyphosates that are in our food system today, all of
Mm.
those things lodge themselves into the adipose tissue, fat tissue within our body. And until you start to do some major cleanup there, guess what? We got a spill in aisle 8, okay? Toxic spill in aisle 8. And until we get there to clean it up, the body's going to express itself or manifest itself in some way down the line.
So let me raise your blood pressure for just a second. According to the American Society of Medical Doctors, that's all quackery.
Of course it is, because again, they don't want to admit, okay, to the daily things that are happening in our society as a result of many of these illnesses that are now creeping up. You know, again, the old adage, you know, somebody comes in, they go through a battery of tests in the doctor, they can't figure out what's wrong with them, so they tag them, "You have fibromyalgia." Well,
Right.
that's a very nice way of saying, okay, we really don't know what's wrong with you, so this is going to be the
Mm.
tagline.
Right. Right. So when you look at chemicals, what chemicals do you see like a growing concern when you see much of them over and over on the same patients?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So
Mm.
again, you know, you hear this big catchphrase today where people are gluten intolerant or you have celiac disease, and that's more or less rampant in our society today. And what I say is, no, you're not. Don't have a gluten intolerance. You have a glyphosate intolerance, which is
Right.
Roundup.
That's the correct
Roundup is
term.
sprayed, right? Roundup is sprayed in our whole entire food system. What most people don't know is that all of the wheat that is harvested here in North America, including Canada, is doused with Roundup 48 hours before harvest. Now, granted, yes, they wash it down with water, but guess what? It's not cleaning that wheat the way
Mhm.
that it should be. So I always say to anybody that comes to me with gluten intolerance or that claims they have celiac disease, I go, please take a trip to Italy. See if you can eat the pizza and the pasta there and see
Right.
if it has any effect on your body because it
Right.
doesn't. And, you know, including myself, I've gone there and had amazing meals because
Mhm.
nothing there, all GMOs and glyphosates are outlawed for most of the European Union. So I
Mhm.
applaud them for that. One
You
of the
know,
other things that I'm seeing that's
Doug,
rampant
Doug,
right now.
hey, Doug, let me pause you for just a second. When I go to the Middle East, when I go to Jordan with my wife, they had no digestive problems because they ate their own wheat.
Right.
So the very year the United States began to ship over, they forced them through one of their kind of acts that they have to take in the American wheat. The very next year I went there, everyone had digestive problems, like the whole country, everywhere I
No
went.
surprise there.
So right there along with you, I saw it firsthand from no gut problems to all of a sudden the entire country seems to have a gut problem.
Amazing. Just
Yeah.
amazing.
So would you say glyphosate is like the number one problem we have with the gut right now?
Yeah, I think, look, again, taking a look at glyphosates and Roundup, it really wreaks havoc on the body, as
Mm,
well as heavy metals, too, by the way, because
mm,
there's a lot of heavy metals that are rampant in our system, too. And
mm,
people, again, are exposed to those unbeknownst to them, even just right on down to the deodorants that they use, or I should say antiperspirants. So, and I see
mm,
that a lot in my practice as well, too. People that come back, you know, rampant, high in aluminum, mercury. And when you start to chelate those out of the system, all of a sudden you see all of their symptoms go away. Another case in point. I had somebody come to me a few years back who was diagnosed with ALS. And obviously, this gentleman was very distraught. He was a younger gentleman, only in his 50s. So he kind of thought like, oh my God, this is it. My life is over. He'd been to like 3 of the top ALS doctors in New York City. All
Mhm.
of them confirmed that this was the diagnosis. So somebody recommended that he come to me. So he came to me and I did a very extensive history, as I always do on all my clients. Sure enough, here is somebody who worked in a paint factory his whole
Mm.
entire life. Big surprise there. So I said, did
Right.
anybody ever bother to check you for heavy metals? And he said, no. So we did a whole heavy metal checkup on him. And oh, by the way, that's also very specific because if you go to a regular lab today, a Quest or a LabCorp, they could do a heavy metal test, but it's not going to be accurate. Why?
No.
Because you need to use what's called a provoking agent before the
Right.
test. Something that's
So
going to
so tell
actually
so tell
leach the
people
heavy
about that.
metals.
Tell people, the public doesn't understand it. Explain that to people.
Sure. So a provoking agent is an agent that I use. It's probably some type of a supplement that will actually help draw out the heavy metals from the cell membrane because the
Mm.
cell membrane is almost impermeable. It's like bulletproof. So when able to draw those heavy metals out into the bloodstream, then do the blood test, now you're getting an accurate reading as to whether or not you're exposed to heavy metals. If you're just
Mm.
doing it without the provoking agent, it's not going to be very reliable. So
Mm.
again, very important. Anyway, for this gentleman, he came back rampant in cadmium, mercury,
Cadmium.
and aluminum.
Wow.
When we chelated the heavy metals out of his system,
Mm.
he never had ALS. This guy's symptoms disappeared miraculously within a few months' time. So, that's just one case, and I have dozens more like that.
Mm.
Everything from misdiagnosed MS cases to lupus, you name it. And again, it's peeling back the layers of the onion, trying to
Mm.
understand what people have been exposed to their entire life,
Mm.
regardless if it's 20, 30 years ago. Patrick, you see it in your practice.
Mm.
These things have a long lasting effect on people's health. So
Yeah.
that's what we try to do. We try to really dive deep into the entire picture.
Yeah. Well, guys, when you're watching this, Doug's been doing this a long time, guys. So he's seen the trend of more and more chemicals every year. Please pay attention to this because if you think that you're free of chemicals, probably every person you can test has got some form of chemicals above the red zone. And glyphosate is one of them. And like I just put an article up the other day, and I'm sure Doug's agreed that I used to wonder why my dog all of a sudden had a digestive problem. It's because they sprayed the glyphosate in all the grass, all the weed killers and stuff. And so if your dog is running outside and gets it on their paw, they're going to lick their paw, and suddenly they have a digestive problem. And you take them to the vet, and oh, it's this and this, right? It's really simple. They're getting pesticides on their inside their body through their paws when they run through the grass. And so, have you had any dogs as patients, Doug? Because we've given them stuff to help the dogs because you can do a glyphosate test and a heavy metal test on your dogs. I don't know if anybody sent their dogs to you.
No, I have to
No
say
dogs
I have
yet.
not started. I've not started accepting animals
I
as
mean,
far as
they're the
patients.
same. I mean, really, you can look at your dogs if they're having digestive problems, they got the same stuff you got. They're just like a little
Yeah,
human, and they're
I
full of
totally agree.
glyphosate. They're full of chemicals. They're full of heavy metals.
Yeah, totally
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. So if we want to fix the medical system today, we know it's broken. What do you think the first steps are to fix the medical system today, Doug? What would you do? You had your magic wand.
Well, that's a great question too. Look,
Mm.
I always said we don't have a healthcare system; we have a sick care system.
Mm.
They're more interested in keeping patients than they are healing people. Now, look, I don't want to generalize with all doctors. There's a lot of wonderful doctors out there that are
Right.
forward thinking,
There is.
that are understanding that look, there's a new wave of medicine here, and it's all about understanding what alternative medicine is. So I applaud them. But for some of the old timers, again, very difficult. Look, another case in point. I have a client who has stage 3 breast cancer, and she's about to go through chemo in Sloan Kettering Hospital in New York City. So I supply her with a list of nutrients and supplements that I want her taking based on the cocktail of chemo that she's getting, as well as based on the type of cancer that she has. Because by the way, all cancers feed off of different nutrients and foods very differently. So you have some cancers that are acidic based and some that are alkaline based. That's right, you heard me correct. Some
Mm-hmm.
cancers can thrive in an alkaline base in your
Mm-hmm.
body. Anyway, I supply her with all these different nutrients, and her oncologist refused to allow her to have any of them. He said, none of these things are FDA approved. So I sent her over 9 different studies about the efficacy of these nutrients and how they not only improved the efficacy of the chemo, but also protected her healthy cells in the meantime as well. So the doctor refused to look at any of these studies. He said, none of these, he goes, I would consider valid. I said, well, you might want to take a second look at those because they were all done by your hospital. I said, not an outside third party, but your hospital actually did these studies. And I said, and I'm sure if you're still reluctant in implementing those for your client, I said, I'm sure probably somewhere down the line, a lawsuit may ensue. So obviously his ears perked up and then he was more willing to take a look at it. So again, I think to answer your question is I think the medicine society really has to be a little bit more open-minded about taking a look at what alternative treatments are, of taking a look at a person, again, as a whole, from the inside out, as opposed to the outside in. And then lastly, they just have to spend the time asking the proper questions and spending the proper amount of time with the person. You know, the average amount of time that a doctor spends with an individual today, a new patient, is anywhere between 7 and 11 minutes. How much can you possibly find out about a person in 7 or 11 minutes? So to me, again, I think it's ridiculous. I think you have to invest the time. It's unfortunate because, again, the way our system is set up is the insurance companies just don't allow it. So these guys, I understand it. They have, huge overheads and big student loans to pay back. And look, they're trying to make it as best as they can. So it's very difficult. They're swimming upstream for the most part. And I feel for them, but I applaud the ones, again, that are taking the initiative and really starting to learn a little bit more about this.
I've seen in the last couple of years, probably the last 3 years, Doug, I've seen a lot of these, say the metabolite testing like we talk about also. I've seen more medical doctors jump in the line and coming over to the alternative area and looking because they're really being a doctor again. They're really trusting this, hey, my patients aren't getting better. What I'm doing is not working, so I'm looking for answers. Instead, I'm just looking for my pocketbook and paying off, say, student loans. They're really, I met a bunch of good guys and ladies saying, hey, I want to find out more. And so they're looking at exactly the things we're talking about. They're seeing all these chemicals. They're going, my God, they told us this wasn't important. But like you said, the human body is designed to do so much. And if the liver is not, a blood test, the public doesn't understand, shows you when your liver is dying. When the liver cells are actually dying, that's what a blood test shows you. But a sluggish liver is not shown on any blood test. What you can see glutathione levels on urine tests. If the glutathione levels plummet, as you know, that liver is not functioning properly. And like you have these autistic kids, man, their liver is hardly even working correctly, but it's not dying, so no blood test shows it. So I think, Doug, maybe you and I will be teaching courses, who knows, ourselves to the medical world, but definitely I encourage any medical doctor or anybody in that field who's watching this film today is don't look at us as the bad guys. We're on the same team, but we're looking at the patient first. We're really trying to get people better. And if you're watching this film, I encourage you to look further than what you've been trained to look past, way beyond any parameters that you studied before, and look into functional medicine because the answers are there. And as you know, Doug, functional medicine is still learning and growing as a field in itself.
Oh, absolutely, on a daily basis. And look, Patrick, the biggest compliment I could get is when I get referrals from MDs. Just recently, I had somebody from the Cleveland Clinic, an MD from the Cleveland Clinic, recommend a patient to me who's suffering from long COVID. And, it was funny because when I asked her, how did you come to me? How did you find me? She said, well, apparently you helped my doctor's nurse many years ago. She was suffering from a few different things. And he said, look, he goes, I don't know what he does or how he does it, but this is somebody I would certainly recommend. And he happens to be one of these very big, well-regarded doctors at the Cleveland Clinic. So for me, that's one of the biggest compliments I could get is when, a lot of MDs actually see and value what I do and send family and send friends to me. And look, I have many MDs that, I treat their wives, I treat their kids. And for me, again, that's one of the biggest compliments I could ever have.
So what patients need and clients, they need trust. And guys, once again, this is a message to all of you watching. If you go to someone like Doug and you ask for his help, one thing you don't want to do is tell him, well, let me go home and read online about what you just said. Okay. You don't need to read online. He's like a shaman in the jungle carries the knowledge of the plants, right? When a shaman dies, like a whole library dies. We know this in the old world. Doug is like a shaman. He's got all this stuff of his library. If you need to go read online, you're not trusting the shaman in front of you. And this is a big thing about us doing our work. Guys, if we're telling you from our heart how to do things, and like I said, Doug's been doing this longer than I have, is trust him. Put trust in his words. You don't need to question what he's telling you is truth or not. You just need to question what he's telling you so you understand it better, the information and the path he's putting you on. So I'm telling you, any patient, please, when you're watching this, put trust in someone you come to. And if you come to Doug, trust him and just follow his lead, and he will lead you through that jungle safely. Because believe me, if you try to go to just a regular nutrition store and go, well, I'm going to buy this supplement, you're going blindly into the jungle. You need a shaman to catch you through it. And Doug, would you not look at yourself as a shaman somewhat?
Well, I appreciate
the
that.
modern world shaman?
Thank you for the compliment. Look, I've always been an analytical and didactic. I do not recommend anything unless I can qualify it and quantify it. So I need to understand why a person is taking certain things or doing certain things before I can actually applaud it and encourage it. So again, that's always been my mantra, is to kind of, again, how do we test? How do we know? How do I, again, really dissect what's going on with the person to the best of my ability and to the best of science's ability to be able to determine really what the core problem is for that individual. So I greatly appreciate the shaman title.
I was going to say, Doug Caporrino, the modern day shaman. Because really, Doug, are you not like a walking library of knowledge?
It's funny you say that.
I mean, really, because that's what a shaman is. They're walking, like I met a shaman in Peru, right? They called him in his native language the walking library. That was his name in Spanish. So you're like a walking library of knowledge, right? So why not? Yeah, so somebody should come to you and ask you the question, and then you just automatically have it, right?
They asked me several questions the other day, and I started spewing, and they're looking at me with a head tilt going, how do you fit all that information in between your two ears? And it's funny, that's why I ended up writing my book. For years I was on the speaking circuit, and people kept saying, why don't you write a book? When are you going to write a book? And, I never really put serious thought into it. And then finally I just said, okay, you know what? I'm going to sit down and hunker down. And I did so over, the course of a year and a half. Tell Me, Teach Me, Heal Me, How to Get Healthy Before You Die Trying. And by the way, second book is coming out soon. Tell Me, Teach Me, Heal Me, How to Survive and Thrive COVID. So I put all of this information into a book, and it was actually pretty amazing. And it's over 400 pages.
Do you see it, Doug?
Can you
see that? Is that you?
Yeah, that's me, Patrick.
All right.
So yeah, it was very rewarding, and many people say they use this as their health encyclopedia.
There's his book.
They say they keep it on their coffee table, or they keep it at their bedstand overnight and use it as a reference guide. So I'm very, very honored that it did so well, and that our people are using this on a daily basis. So yeah, look, again, for whatever reason, I'm able to absorb this information that I've learned all these years, and anytime I need to unlock that door, I do so. Another funny story. I'm going to be teaching a bunch of grad students at Palmer Chiropractic College the end of the month.
Really?
We're doing a certified nutrition course. And so now I've had a challenge, as you know, which is why my voice is a little hoarse. So I was asked to do a little 10-minute intro on FaceTime about a week ago to all the grad students. So now I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm a little nervous. I haven't done this in a while. And by the way, to anybody listening, I always get nervous anytime I'm speaking in front of an audience, whether it be 10 people or 1,000 people. For me, it keeps me on my game, because I know, again, that it's still resonating with me, and I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm literally like, a little nervous about speaking for 10 minutes. So I get on, and 10 minutes turns into 30 minutes. I just was spewing information out that I have no idea where it came from. All I know is that at the end of it, I couldn't tell you a thing I said, because everything came through me, not from me. So it was just, it's amazing. And I'm blessed and thankful to God every single day.
Well, Doug, as we know, it's not just, they say the two ears, really it's the consciousness. You carry in your energy field. I like to look at it as your energy field, your aura is your Wi-Fi, and your brain's just a processor. So you can carry so much more stuff in this this Wi-Fi unit out here you're connecting with, you know. So
I agree. I agree.
yeah, so let's change subject for just a moment, and I want to ask
Sure.
about school. We talked about this. So like children in school, like they should get an education like how to eat even differently. You know, like what foods they should eat, even basic cleansing. What would you implement in the schools, and like what age possibly with children would you start with nutrition for kids?
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, I think as soon as kids are able to go to school, whether it be at kindergarten or nursery school where they're getting snacks, the unfortunate thing is that the food supply system to schools usually goes to the lowest bidder, okay, of the
Mhm.
worst food that is being supplied. So, that's like the old crazy notion of who's building our rocket ships that are sending men to the moon. Well, the person that's bidding the lowest, okay, the contractor,
Right,
probably using the cheapest materials. So
right.
it's like, okay, well, the same thing's being done for our kids. And when you take a look at the choices that kids have today in cafeterias, everything from, pizza to mac and cheese to a McDonald's or Burger King, it's deplorable. So these are the things I believe that we're ingraining in our children at a very young age, that this type of food and this type of nutrition is acceptable. And it's just simply not true. So I think the first thing that we have to do is empower parents. And I know many parents out there are saying to themselves, look, I don't have the wherewithal to be able to make my children's lunches. But I stand to correct you because I believe you do. There are so many different things out there today that are cost effective that you can get at a Costco or someplace else that is
Mhm.
organic, nutritious, and incredibly cheap to be able to serve your kids. That's something that's healthy. So I think
Yeah,
it starts at home, to answer your question.
yeah. It's
First, it
called
has
an
to come from the
Instapot.
parent.
Instapot. An Instapot, you can throw a possum in it and cook it in 20 minutes. I mean,
There you
how
go.
hard is that?
Right. And again, I think it has to start with the parents. Again, the apple
It
doesn't
does.
fall far from the tree. So
It
if
does.
children see their parents eating well and taking the time to take care of themselves, I believe the same thing happens with the children too. So I
Mhm.
believe, again, it has to be a family thing and certainly an investment that you make in not only yourself, but your children, because it's going to pay dividends years to come. And
Mhm.
so, you can either pay the system now or pay the system later, which is going to cost you a heck of a lot more money.
Yes, it
God
is.
forbid your children or anybody gets sick. So I always say again, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yeah.
So I think again, people could really do themselves a good service, not only for themselves but for their children, in investing a little bit more in what they do and what they eat.
Yeah. Now, Doug, for people watching the show here, and they want to implement something in their routine, they just want to, maybe someone's watching this is just looking in desperation, looking for help. What Doug Caporrino basics? Some very, very, you know how you told me years ago how you had a client never exercise, and you didn't start something, a routine with them. You had him jump rope one time, just swing the rope or just even jump one time every day. And if they got one jump in, then maybe tomorrow they could do two jumps, right? I remember you telling me this years ago. So what kind of basics is somebody who's brand new, doesn't know anything about this, that you tell them to get started?
Sure, real easy. So the first thing I'm going to say is 80% of the population is mildly dehydrated. Drink water. Drink good drinking water if you can, if it's available to you. Certainly don't drink anything out of the faucet if you can avoid it. Just simply because our filtration plants today just aren't made with the proper equipment to filtrate out all of the different antibiotics and everything that are being flushed down toilets today. So pure water, something reverse osmosis is great, or any
Mm-hmm.
other kind of water that you can drink other than tap water. Highly encourage people to do that. Second part of it is, again, try to get away from fast food. Try to eliminate sugars in your menu. Sugars are incredibly inflammatory, incredibly addictive. In fact, they stimulate an area of the brain that actually heroin stimulates as well. So it's equally as addictive, as crazy as that may sound, but
Oh,
that's
yeah.
why it's rampant in everything that we eat today in all of our foods. So two things quickly. Drink more water, try to eliminate sugar, try to get rid of junk food, and lastly, try to move your body, period. We live in a sedentary life today where everybody's in front of their computer, on their cell phones, or kids are gaming in their rooms for hours on end. So I encourage people, get up, move, walk. I don't care what you do, but get the body up and out and doing something. In doing so, again, you will start to improve not only the health of your body, but the wellness and well-being of your mind as well. So I think, again, all those things play hand in hand. Sound mind, sound body, again, I think really, really work well together. So you need to be congruent in what you're doing. So just a couple of little simple things there, I
That's
think
good.
will really change a person's life.
I told a parent the other day they need to take the remote control away from their kids and just kind of go back to the dial, so that way they at least have to walk from the couch to the TV back and forth. At least they would do something. And she laughed. I said, "No, actually, I'm serious. You make your kids get off the couch." So Doug, I want to ask you, so all the viewing people watching the show with Doug Caporrino today, I'm sure you're going to have lots of questions. At the end, I'll put Doug's contacts so you guys can get in touch with him. Doug, big question of the day, and this is one I ask a lot of people, and everyone has kind of a different opinion, but I want the Doug Caporrino. You've been around it long enough to see this planet and see the world, see other people living in different countries and how they live versus the United States. And by the way, guys, the United States is not the best way to live as far as our health. There are other countries who live healthier than us. Okay, but as a species, mankind, Doug, where do you see the future of us going as a species?
I'm going to be the cockeyed optimist here, okay? Because
Okay.
that's what I tend to be. I believe we're hitting a tipping point. I believe with the amount of information that's out in the world today, people are really understanding, okay, the not the one size fits all model anymore. They're understanding what they're exposed to. They're understanding the different toxins that they and their families are exposed to now. People again are becoming more educated. Look, Dr. Google has done a lot of good, and Dr. Google has done a lot of harm as well. But if it is moving people more towards a place of consciousness, where they have what I call PTC, present time consciousness, where they're making better choices in the foods and the activities that they're doing on a daily basis. That could be mindfulness, that could be meditation, that could be even just breath work. And nobody knows that better than you. But just understanding, to breathe at certain times throughout the day and put your body through a certain kind of breathing exercise. I think, again, the human species, look, again, we're hitting that tipping point right now. We're seeing a lot more people suffering from neurodegenerative diseases, but I think we're going to be passing that soon. And I think people, again, will be more responsible for their health, take responsibility for what they do on a daily basis, and don't give up all of their energy and all of their choices to the medical world, hopefully, from my mouth to God's ears.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Okay, all you guys hear that? That's Doug Caporrino. He's giving you some advice on how to handle yourself in the future. But guys, don't wait till you're miserable. Don't wait till you're in so much pain you can't move. Don't wait till like your health is so bad you have an autoimmune disease, where next thing you know, the doctors are loading you up for a lot of drugs and chemicals that are more chemicals for your body to deal with. Do something today. Do something now. Don't wait till tomorrow, and you will have a bright future. Because I watch too many people that have a good life. They make a lot of money. They retire, ready to see the world, and they spend 5 days a week, usually once or twice at my office, seeing doctors from Monday through Friday. Instead of being on a vacation over there on the beach in Hawaii, they are in an office seeing a doctor every day that week for different things. Don't be that person. And I think Doug
Yeah,
would agree
don't
with
wait
that
for
one.
crisis to hit. Don't
Yeah.
wait for crisis to hit. Be proactive, not reactive, is what I say. So, look, again, it's really understanding about your body and understanding that each one of us is biochemically different. That's what I love about what I do, because I see each person as their own science experiment. And I look at them from a chemical standpoint. And it's amazing to me, again, the differences in people and what works for some and doesn't work for others.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. All right, guys. Doug, thank you so much, brother. I'm glad you're on the show. Glad we got to talk finally. And guys, any questions, please give Doug a call. Get in touch with him. Pick his brain. Remember, he's the modern day shaman. Got this consciousness full of all this information. If you have an illness, a problem, or just a question, he's going to be able to answer it. And if he don't, I promise you, he's going to go and find an answer somewhere for you. And once again, Doug Caporrino, and I'm Dr. Patrick Price, and this is the Body Detective Show. Thank you for watching.